Jones here, coming to talk to you about how you can thrive in this real estate economy. Agents, investors, homeowners, buyers, you need to see this video if you want to make sure that you have everything you need to know about the equity opportunities that exist today. If you don't want your equity, throw it out the window and X out of this video. But we have a lot to discuss. Where is inventory and judicial foreclosures? Is this a fad, passing, or is this the future? Is this part of the things to come? Listen, the headlines sometimes don't mirror what the politicians say, and what the politicians say sometimes, many times, doesn't actually reflect what the data suggests. And a lot of times people look at the data and look at the politicians and go, the politician is a liar. And sometimes the politicians may not be the liars, they just may not know as much of the real estate market as a skunk might know about Mozart. But let's look at what the headlines of today are saying about the housing market. Housing has hit bottom, Wall Street Journal. Las Vegas enjoys the 5th straight month of price gains. By the way, no matter where you're clicking on this video, pay attention. We've got several markets we talk about briefly. New York City, Miami, East and West Coast. But silver linings in housing prices in July this year, they've printed this. New homes showing signs of revival per the Telegraph. Psychics predict the world didn't end yesterday. Mayans 0. 2012, 1 point for you. Sean Donovan, the HUD secretary, says housing has turned a corner. And by the way, if you had listened to the Attorney General of Nevada a couple of days ago at the NAREP convention, the panel they had her on, you also will have heard something similar, something along almost same lines of we've turned the page, or we've turned the corner, or we've turned the stone, or we've thrown a stone, or something crazy with the housing market's on recovery. And so everyone should take solace in that. Why? Defined, new homes and prices. 5th straight month of price gains. That's the headline. What do you need to know about all that? And also, record high delinquencies are still there. Interesting. Those of you that aren't professionals in the industry, delinquencies is what we measure when we try to see how bad the market is, homes that are not being paid for that will soon become bank owned. Foreclosures on the market, they're going to be priced. Sometimes they come down in price. Sometimes they affect what you can buy, and they affect what you're going to sell your home against. But UPI.com this month reported that the nation's foreclosure industry or the inventory of the foreclosed homes is still at 4%, is near record levels. 3% of our entire mortgage market is 90 days or more delinquent, but have not yet begun the foreclosure process. Okay, the storyline here: lots of bad problems still in the background. Okay, they're not foreclosed, they're not bank owned yet, but in the background, problems are lingering. That's what UPI.com is telling us based on the data. Okay, delinquencies are high. We're hearing stories about prices are rocketing up. And we're hearing stories about, hey, this is great, right? We've had Vegas, available inventory in Vegas has declined for 8 straight months. We just read we're having record high delinquencies, meaning people are still hurting and in trouble, yet you can't find a house and prices are climbing because the ability of you finding a home or supply is diminished. Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, let's look at New York City, an area of roughly 5 million residents. Business Insider reports that an estimated review of pre-foreclosure here, still delinquency review, looking at how many people are in trouble. There's roughly 265,000 delinquencies, this report estimated. And if you look at how many homes, okay, 265,000 people are in trouble. So if you're in New York City, what are you going to buy? 400 homes available just a couple months back. That doesn't make sense. What happens when there's so few supply in such a tight area where people need to buy properties? Well, if you also caught a recent news article in New York City, rents are like $3,000 for a postage stamp apartment. That's pretty exciting, and that's great. That's a sign of economic rebound, okay? Phoenix market, west side of the globe. Bank repos in Maricopa County plunged 3,159, or there were 359 cases in April. There were 767 in inventory a year later. 3,000 you could buy last year, 700 you could buy this year. And if my fellow Arizona realtors are watching, you would probably say, Jared, it's hotter than that. People are auctioning their kids to get houses here because it's so tight. Foreclosure radar reported. Miami-Dade was the epicenter of a bubble of foreclosures. They had, in 2010, the banks repoed 23,000 properties in just Miami-Dade County. In the Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach area, they foreclosed 54,000 properties. And although they sharply curtailed repos, they foreclosed 54,000 in 2011 in that area, those three counties. They were curtailed in 2011. The number still totaled 35,000. So it went from 54,000 to 35,000. Still huge numbers. Should be a lot available, right? I spoke with the head of data for Miami Association of Realtors on May 18th, which is this past 2 months ago, and was amazed to learn that there were only 282 repossessed properties on the MLS, this Business Insider writes. 282 properties. This area has 35,000 repoed or properties progressing in the foreclosure process. That doesn't make a lot of sense unless you know about the National Foreclosure Settlement. The largest settlement since Big Tobacco. Interesting, isn't it? The National Foreclosure Settlement, what you need to know is there are 5 banks. The Attorney General started negotiating with them almost 2 years ago, and they come up with a $25 billion settlement. The money goes in all these state coffers, and along with those negotiations came regulatory models. Now, these models produced a bill in Nevada, affectionately called AB 284. And there's now one being about to be signed by Governor Gray in California, mimicked after this model. There's 2 things you need to know about this. Number 1, Nevada has been a great testing ground to see what happens when you mimic or take pieces from the settlement as it's written and push it down to the regulatory model. So far, we've seen the banks, and we're a non-judicial state. We don't use the courts to foreclose as a model. We can, but most of the time, in all the years I've been in real estate, rarely I've ever seen it happen. Until now. Recently, I've seen several cases of clients who are in a short sale procedure, close to foreclosure, get served lawsuit papers. So judicial activity is getting up. Our court dockets are backing up. So you're seeing judicial activity now spring out of the ground. That has an effect on things. You as a homeowner who might be in a short sale process might want to know what that's about, because that's coming. And I'll cover that in a separate video because it's about as interesting as watching paint dry, but we will discuss what's going to happen. More judicial, what could happen? First of all, the actual National Foreclosure Settlement raised the bar, caused it to be much tougher to foreclose. The outcome of that could be more judicial activity, which has changed our market. We've gone from a processing this procedure outside of court to actually processing them through the court. And what you need to know is the judicial state process. The states that already do judicial foreclosure are almost 3 times behind states like Nevada who used to process through non-judicial means. The court system runs slower. Why? Antiquated systems. The judge needs some vacation time. The courts aren't ready for all of it. It just doesn't move as fast, and it takes that much longer to clean up a already stagnant market. Backlog courts, some of the reasons I already explained. Florida actually brought retired judges onto the bench to actually help clean up their caseload. But you know what? We call this sweet recovery. Speaking, coaching, investment advice, one-on-one consultation, list your home. info@horizonreg.com or click below. Think big and get after it. See you later.